We have a fabulous culinary demo for you today by Chef Katie Mae. She's going to be doing some Caribbean summer dishes. If you're not familiar with me, my name is Chef AJ and I host this daily live show at 11 a.m. Pacific time. It started 120 days ago, the day that sheltering began in California, to create a sense of community and connection. But I just kept going, sometimes doing 2 and 3 shows a day. But now we're down to 1 show a day. We've done about 175. So I hope you'll check some of the replays out because they're wonderful. All our guests are fabulous. They're amazing people like you who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. So without further ado, please welcome Chef Katie Mae. Take it away, Katie Mae.
Thanks, AJ. So happy to be here with you guys. We are, like AJ said, going to be making a Caribbean meal. And it's perfect for the summertime because we got lots of fresh produce and lots of flavors. So we're also going to keep it pretty light with a salad and some nice cream. But we're going to start with a hearty stew. So like Chef AJ said, I am a culinary instructor. I teach at TrueNorth Health Center and work with the Dr. McDougall's Health and Medical Center. And all of my food is whole food plant-based, but also SOS-Free, like AJ does. Maybe occasionally I might give a couple options for adding in miso or tamari, maple syrup. But if you check out my website, 99.99% of it is SOS-Free. Most of it is also flour-free because I just find that the flour weighs me down and I'd rather have a whole grain, whole legumes rather than the flour version. So that being said, let's jump in. We have Puerto Rican red bean stew for you today. We have, let me see if nope. Okay. So if you want to get the recipe, all of the ingredients are listed in the show notes, but the actual recipe, the PDF version, you can get just by opting into my email list. You'll get updates about all my cooking shows. I go live weekly, and then you'll get the PDF version that you can download. And in addition, there's 2 extra bonus recipes, which I'll talk about later on. But so if you want to follow along, you can get that recipe now. It'll be emailed to you. So we're going to do this dish, Puerto Rican red bean stew, in the Instant Pot instead of the stovetop. It's written for the stovetop, the recipe is, but I'm going to show you how simple it can be in the Instant Pot. Okay, so we have my pot here. Let's do Instant Pot. So we're going to put in our onion and jalapeno. We're just going to start with this on, let's see here, the saute mode. You hit saute, it says 30 minutes. We're not going to go that long. So just start with it there. And then we're going to add, that was the onion and jalapeno, all diced up. And we're going to let that saute for a few minutes. Now, I'm going to actually cover this so we keep all of the moisture in the pan. So we'll just put the lid on. We're not bringing the Instant Pot to pressure. We're just covering it to keep the moisture in the pan and let that cook for a little bit. Then we're going to, while that sautés up, I would dice up my bell pepper. So we have here already diced bell pepper. And then all of our spices. So I'm going to combine my spices here in a little bowl, and we can add those in a minute. I'll show you our spices. We've got, we're going to do oregano. So half a tablespoon of oregano. Now lots of spice, but it really is not too much. You know, herbs and spices, it can look like you're using a lot, and it may seem like it's going to be too much flavor, but it's really not that much when you get down to eating it. You want actually more herbs and spices. People think like a teaspoon, you know, here and there is going to be enough, but you want more than that. So I'm adding cilantro and cumin, ground up cumin. And we're going to add these so they cook with the vegetables before we add any liquid to the pan. So we're toasting this cumin in the pan. And this is how I store my herbs and spices in little mason jars because I like being able to get larger amounts than what comes in a typical can. And then you can also easily access it with a large tablespoon measurement. Now our last one is smoked paprika, another half tablespoon here. So,
Smoked paprika is my very favorite spice of all the spices.
So I'm going to pour this right into our pan. And a couple bay leaves. We'll throw in a couple bay leaves here and stir this up. I'll add my red bell pepper. I don't like the bell pepper cooked as long as the onion, so I add it after the onion. Usually I actually add it at the end of a dish, but for this one, I do want it cooked. I'll stir that up. You can't smell it, but it already is smelling amazing. So I'm going to add 1 cup of vegetable broth. And I'm going to do a cup of tomato sauce. Like I said, you could do this on the stovetop. It would just take a little bit longer. And I'm going to get all this tomato out, so I'm just going to add a little more water. Okay. And our red beans, which are right here, already cooked up. These little red beans are fantastic. They cook up so fast. I soaked them overnight and then cooked them in the Instant Pot for 5 minutes and did a natural release. And this is what turned out. We've got 4 cups here, and we're just going to put this in the pot. And now I'm going to give it a stir. Oh, guys, tell me my camera's in a new kitchen and still getting used to the camera setup, but you can see this is going to be really tasty and it's not going to take long at all. We're going to set the timer to the manual setting, or if you have a newer pressure cooker, different version, you can just do the pressure cook setting for 1 minute. Actually, I'm going to do 2 minutes to get this nice and tender. The beans are already cooked, so it's not going to take very long. And you could do this in just 1 minute or even 0 minutes if you wanted to. But the more cooking it a little bit longer will develop the flavors a little bit more. Okay. And if you were on the stove top, you could let it simmer for 5 minutes or for 20, 30 minutes, depending on how long you had and how much flavor you wanted to develop. Okay. So that's that for the red bean stew. Now we're going to move on to our salad dressing. Or, yeah, let's make our salad dressing first. So we have Vitamix here. And in our dressing, we're going to do, this is a sweet chili dressing. So I made a Caribbean coleslaw with a hot sauce, and it was delicious. But the hot sauce called for a Scotch bonnet pepper, which is a very popular pepper in the Caribbean, Jamaican food. And so I made that hot sauce, and then I put it a little bit into a dressing and into the coleslaw. And I ended up having this whole bunch of hot sauce that wasn't going to be used up because there's so much, there's no salt added, no oil added, and it wouldn't last as long as it would take to use it all up. And so instead I redid that recipe and made a dressing to go with the salad that includes the Scotch bonnet pepper. The Scotch bonnet pepper is incredibly hot. I wouldn't even, if I had gloves, I wouldn't even touch it like this. So if you're using the Scotch bonnet pepper, I recommend getting gloves at the grocery store. You can just go to like where they sell the the parchment paper and everything, they have kitchen gloves often, and you can use those. So these, and if you don't have gloves, just make sure that you wash your hands after touching the pepper. You don't want to touch your eyes or your nose or anything because it is so hot. And so depending on your taste preferences, you might want to leave it out completely, maybe use a little bit of a jalapeno, or you could use the Scotch pepper, Scotch bonnet. And if you want a little bit lighter of a heat, you can take out the seeds and just do the outer part of the pepper. So you could cut it, cut around the seeds and toss the middle. And then put in your Scotch bonnet. In this recipe, I'm actually only going to use half of this, okay? And it's kind of a big one, so I'm going to do a little bit more, like a third of this large Scotch bonnet pepper. Let's do this. All right. And that goes into our blender along with an onion. This is a white onion. Now there's a lot of big onions in the grocery store, so you don't want too big of an onion. Just a kind of a small one will work fine. And then we're going to add in our garlic. So we have 3 garlic cloves here. Cumin, half a teaspoon. And I'm going to do a sweet potato. So the sweet potato is going to give us some creaminess and some extra flavor, extra sweetness. I have a sweet potato cooking in the stove here. So just pulling it out of the oven. And so we have a whole sweet potato, and the recipe calls for 1 medium sweet potato. So what I would do is, I like to, when I'm making dishes, or recipes and non-recipe dishes, I start with a little bit less than the recipe calls for, so I can always add more of an ingredient I'm not quite sure about the size, you know, because sweet potatoes are all different sizes, and so I can always add more. I can't take it out. So we're going to start with this. And it's so hot here. Normally I would wait for this to cool a little bit before trying to take the skin off, but that worked well. We have sweet potato. Now we need our water, 2 cups of water. This recipe for the dressing is making more than we need for this one salad, but I always make extra dressing so that I have leftover. Okay, I highly recommend that. We're gonna do mango for sweetness as well. Remember how I said how hot this Scotch bonnet pepper is? It really needs the sweetness to balance that spice. So I'm just cutting mango here, and that we've had such great mangoes. I've been snacking on them for a couple weeks now, and they're just fantastic. And this is the least ripe one I've had in a long time. So you want ideally a little bit darker of a yellow colored flesh here, but this will work. I'm just going to scoop out the flesh of the mango. And you could do frozen mango too. Same with sweet potato. If you are buying frozen vegetables, if you have sweet potato, that would work. Or frozen pineapple would also work here. Okay, so a couple more ingredients. Apple cider vinegar. We're going to do a tablespoon or 2 tablespoons. and some stone ground mustard, 1 tablespoon. All right, so.
Katie, do you mind if I ask you a couple of questions before they leave? First of all, let's see. Lisa wants to know where you got your measuring spoons, what the brand is. She loves them. A few people are asking if they could just use regular kidney beans instead of red beans.
Yes, you can do regular kidney beans. You could do other beans too, of course, but kidney beans would be the first option if you're not having, if you don't have red beans. The kidney beans are going to take longer to cook, but once they're cooked, it would be the same time in the Instant Pot. And these little spoons are fantastic. I have 2 sets of them, and they are magnetic so that you can, you don't have to like use that little, what is it? I'm thinking of the little circle thing that they're all always connected to. That's such a pain. So these are called Progressive, the brand that I have. But if you look up magnetic measuring spoons, there's lots of options. Progressive is the brand I have. So we're gonna blend up our dressing here. I unplugged it when I used the juicer this morning. Okay. All right, see, we've got a nice big volume of dressing. And like I said, I love making my dressings in larger amounts because I'll use it in all of my other dishes, whether it's a salad or even poured over my steamed vegetables as like a sauce. And this seems like a lot, it is a little bit more than I would use as a single person in my home. So I will freeze some of this, and then I can always just take it out of the freezer, thaw it, and I'll blend it up again to give it that nice creamy consistency. Okay, and I want to actually pour this out of here so that I can use my blender again for our nice cream, which is coming up. But I also need to get it out of here because I don't want the heat to heat up my blender too much. So I'm going to pour this into a couple jars. And do a smaller one. So any other questions coming up?
Well, I have a question. So I appreciate so much that you create delicious recipes that are SOS and flour free. You know, you don't really seem like you've really struggled that much with your weight or food addiction, and you probably don't need to do that. So why do you eat this more, strict diet? Because I get criticized a lot saying it's too extreme, it's too strict, but for me, it's not because the food's delicious. So how did you get into this way of eating when, you're very young and pretty and healthy? And
that's a great question. Well, I was studying nutrition. So I was interested in it from a standpoint of helping other people be healthy, but I actually really got into nutrition first because I was dealing so much with food issues and my own health issues. Starting with food addiction at 18, I was an ice cream addict, and I was just full-blown trapped, like literally trapped, locked up in this attachment to ice cream and sugar. Really it came down to sugar, but the sugar and fat combo with, of course, with salt in there. And I was eating 90% of my calories from ice cream at 18. And so I knew that I should be in an addict program. I didn't know anyone else had that problem though. I didn't know of Overeaters Anonymous or anything like that. So I just kind of struggled on my own. And eventually when I left grad school or finished my undergrad program where I was studying to be a doctor, I realized that nutrition would be a real way to help people reverse their diseases. Actually, I didn't know about reversing disease. I just thought I would be doing more to prevent and help them sustain diseases they had and lose the weight and everything. It wasn't until I learned about a plant-based diet where I learned that you could really reverse the diseases. And that is what sold me immediately. And I tried it out myself, SOS-Free, because I was working with a doctor who wanted me to cook for him. In exchange for rent, it had to be SOS-Free. So at 24 years old, 25, I was pushed into it. Otherwise, I don't know if I would have gone, that far, because it is kind of extreme. But I feel so much better doing this. So if anyone, we do see a lot of younger people, more and more younger people doing this, because you do feel so much better. I have pain in my joints when I have salt or tamari or miso. The salt I could do a little bit of, but tamari or miso, things like that, it really bothers me. And so, not to mention the oil, I would gain weight really easily with an autoimmune thyroid issue. I can't, it may look like I'm thin, but it's because I eat this way, right?
Well, you look great. And I agree that until people eat this way, they don't realize how good they're going to feel, because they're so stuck in the pleasure trap with sugar, fat, and salt and flour and alcohol. Mm-hmm. They can't imagine it. And that's why it's so great when they can go to TrueNorth and NeuroAdapt. And then you really prefer your food this way. It's not even like it's hard.
Absolutely. And, sometimes I get into this mindset. I have an kind of extreme personality, and I can get into a mindset of being attached to something, whether it's a specific drink like mochas and matchas I've had for so long, so many years of even being plant-based. I was still having mochas and matchas dairy-free, but that was not serving me. And it was only recently that I actually broke through that attachment to that drink. I was making it at home so I wouldn't have the added sugar. And it was much better. I would say they're even, I was adding turmeric and ginger and chia seeds and walnuts. I was making it very nutritious, like a hot chocolate or a matcha. But the attachment to it is what took me a lot longer to deal with. I got rid of the sugar and all of the junk ingredients, but I still wasn't. It just took me longer. And I think that's the case for a lot of people. So it's not just about being really strict with your food, but about having mindfulness. And I think you can even have a lot of benefit doing 90% in not going all the way if you are also building that mindfulness, right? So the food that you might not be totally compliant, you're not overdoing because you have the ability to say no. Right.
It's interesting. You said you were getting 90% of your calories from ice cream. I was getting 90% from Dr. Pepper and Coke Slurpee.
Yeah. And that just feels so crappy. And I gave myself I literally created autoimmune diseases in my body. And now I'm living with that, the consequences of that. And I also have a gluten intolerance, which is one of the things that probably triggered the Hashimoto's. But I wasn't strict with the gluten because I wasn't having enough symptoms. I wasn't having enough pain from it. And so I continued to have wheat occasionally. We'd go out and socialize. I dated Chef Bravo at TrueNorth, actually. And the socializing, we were so clean most of the time, but then when we'd go out, we would, we'd have pasta or something that was vegan, but it was still gluten. And that made my issues worse. I actually developed a gluten ataxia, which is another autoimmune issue. So even if I encourage you guys to be aware, even if you don't feel like you have the worst pain, but you have a little bit of symptoms, your body's trying to tell you something. It's trying to tell you to pay attention, to do something differently, to, take care of yourself. So anyways, that's my little spiel. So it's never too late either.
Well, Gunther says you look like you're a 16 or 17-year-old teenager.
I wish. I wish AJ, I've heard you say that you wish you got started a lot sooner. That's how I feel too. So it's just a blessing though that we found it when we did, right?
I just want to give a shout out to Janelle Anderson. Guys, I'm new to this technology, but somebody said to put in something called super chat. So I'm supposed to blow a party horn and I don't have a party horn. So what I'll do is I'll use my little pen, which is not my little no pen.
Oh.
So I use this when people try to get me to do something I don't want to do. Thank you so much, Janelle Anderson. I think you're the very first one.
What is the super chat?
It's, everybody yesterday was saying you should put this on and people, I guess, can donate money to you. It's like incredible. I've never seen anything like this because I don't watch a lot of shows except for Pluto the dog and this one. So thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So you see what I'm doing here is just shredding my cabbage for our salad. We have 3 cups of purple and green cabbage in here. And this is a mandolin, kind of a fancy one, but not expensive, the OXO brand, OXO. And it's really great for getting your vegetables a little bit thinner. They have different blades and everything. You guys are probably familiar with these, but.
Katie, you're not using a glove. Katie, you're not using a glove. You're scaring me.
I know.
And I have seen too many chefs cut their fingertips off, and they do that. I know you learned that at TrueNorth because they're too macho to use gloves, but please use the guard. Thank you.
Yeah, you have the guard. And I do have cut gloves too. So I'm not going all the way down like in the last one, but I do use the guard. I had it out. So I'm going to do a little bit more purple cabbage. But what I have here, these cabbages, chop off one end where the core is, the root, and then you can use it just like this. But if you have a bigger one, then you want to cut it in half. So these small ones work great. And I use the guard, but you can't start with the guard, when you're first starting. So you do want to make sure your hands are up at the top. You have to get it started. You could have the guard here, but even there, you don't have quite as much power. So part of the, building your kitchen fitness, as I like to say, is being able to have the skill set, the knowledge, and also the ability, the strength, and also awareness to be efficient in the kitchen. But I'll tell you, AJ, I don't know if you can see, but I actually have a Band-Aid on because I cut myself. And every time I cut myself on the mandolin, it was by moving the mandolin around. Right before the show started, I moved the mandolin to a different location and sliced just a little bit of my finger. So it's very.
Yeah, but if you put your fingertip in it, then it's not vegan anymore.
Yeah. We wouldn't want that. That's there's just, I was going to say something that I don't want to get into. A lot's happening. So we have our dressing already, and we need our carrots here. I'm going to use a grater for our carrots, and we're going to do these big ones.
Yeah, Jennifer's asking if you could use a box grater. Sure, you could use anything. It's just, you could even buy it already grated. It's just, we want you guys to be careful.
And I actually have a box grater here for my carrots. I find it easier than the mandolin for carrots. But I like, have you found a way to keep your carrots lasting longer, AJ? Have you ever shredded carrots in big batches?
OMG. have I ever shredded carrots in big batches? You know, I haven't. Is there a good reason to do that?
Oh, I love shredded carrots in salads.
Oh yeah. Oh, I see what you mean. I just, you know what,
I haven't found a way to store them. They seem to oxidize.
Have you ever tried any of the Tupperware? It's called the Fridge Smart. That one might work for you. If I have an extra, I'll send it to you because they'll seem to keep things longer. And I just have to announce a super chat. Da, 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 da. I hope I'm not missing this because Barb, I'm not seeing yours right now, but I'm seeing Nadej's. I've got to get like a little party horn or something. Thank you so much, Nadej. You sent a super chat. Woohoo! We should have like little bracelets or something we can give out. Barb, I'm still looking. This is fun. It's like being on a telethon, you know, like remember those telethons back in the day? I think that for muscular dystrophy, and then you pick up the phone and anyway, thank you guys.
That's awesome.
But, you know, I get, oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say I get in so much hot water when I do my YouTube recipes because sometimes I buy the carrots already shredded and the cabbage already shredded and people yell at me about the plastic, but I reuse the bags. I swear I do.
Those bags are so convenient, but they also, I find that the carrots aren't as the quality is much lower with bagged carrots. The shredded bags of carrots. So I would add a little bit more carrots to this, but I'm going to just say it's good for now so you don't continue to be bored with just me shredding. Next up we have scallions. So we're just going to add half a bunch of scallions here. Take some of these. And got these here. So green onion, scallions, same thing. Got these.
Oh. Lisa says, do you recommend a specific glove for handling a mandolin or grater? You know, go to Bed Bath & Beyond or Amazon. They're about $15. It's just that they'll specifically say mandolin gloves. Some are metal. I prefer the cloth ones, but really, guys, yes, they make metal ones and cloth ones.
Okay. Yeah, I don't use them enough. But that's a great resource for other people. The salad is ready to have our sauce added. Then we're going to add a little bit of almonds, but we want to toss this with the salad before adding the almonds, our dressing here. Yeah. This is basically like a coleslaw salad, and it's great to go on the side of this red bean stew. The red bean stew is nice and hearty, and this is really light. So, and the flavors of the dressing too complement the stew because you've got the fresh, really fresh dressing with the mango and the sweet potato. I'm going to add some more.
So Stone Oak says if we add water to the container of shredded carrots, they will stay fresh and crispy. Great tip.
Oh, yeah, I add water to my whole carrots. That's how I store them. But I've never thought about the shredded ones. That's great. Okay, so next up, our last recipe. We're going to do our ice cream. And I would put our nuts, you sprinkle the nuts on. I really like to do, whenever you add nuts to a salad though, I try to add them when I'm serving the dish in the individual bowls because you don't want extra nuts in any leftover salad. They won't be that crispy, crunchy goodness. And that way other people can determine how much nuts, or if they don't want to add any nuts, they can do that themselves. But here's our cabbage salad, our Caribbean salad with that sweet chili dressing. I'm gonna put this aside. And we're gonna go on to an ice cream next. So how often do you like to make nice cream, AJ?
You know, I love it. And even though I have the Vitamix, I love to make it in the Champion juicer. It's just, you know, in the hot weather, we do it a lot. I love, grape is my favorite, believe it or not, frozen grape.
Great.
Yeah, I have a video on it. It seems like that would be so weird, but the purple grapes, it just makes the best sorbet. I like it even better than banana. Sandy, the recipes are in the show notes, so they're already there, even if you can't see them, maybe because you're watching on Facebook, but if you're on YouTube, they're in the show notes. And if you're on Facebook, please consider subscribing to me on YouTube because I'm almost at 100,000 and I think I get like a plaque or something. So that would be really cool.
Yeah. So grape, do you add anything else to the grape?
No, honestly, it is the best flavor. You just take the purple grapes, wash them, stem them, put them in a Ziploc bag, and they make the best. So I call it great grape sorbet. They're just delicious. They have like a little toothsome quality from the skin, and everybody that's tried it has said this is like the best flavor. So banana is also good, of course, to have. That's you know, the go-to. And jackfruit, frozen jackfruit makes amazing.
I bet that would be amazing. Yes. So we are going to do pineapple, mango, and a little banana. So this is a tropical, totally tropical nice cream, and it can be made without the nuts, or you can add a little bit of nuts. Being an ice cream addict growing up, I was never satisfied when I first started in the plant-based world with just a fruit-based ice cream, it's basically a sherbet. It's got all the sugar, but it doesn't have the fat. And so I would add in some, whether it was cashews or walnuts. In this case, we're actually going to do macadamia. But as I adapted, just went along on my journey, I started to enjoy the flavors of the fruit a lot more and enjoyed nice cream a lot more and realized how great it was without the nuts. Without that fat, your taste buds adapt. You know, you don't need that fattiness as much. And now, I used to for a long time. You know, I would have once a month. I would have coconut bliss. Have you ever had coconut bliss, AJ?
I actually haven't because I went SOS-Free before it came out, but I bet it was amazing.
Oh, yes. Yeah, you do so well with being so strong like that. See, I would have made an exception and just tried it.
Well, you know, Goldhamer put the fear of life in me, 10 years ago, or the fear of death in me, not the fear of life. Oh, I was schooled by Goldhamer, and that's just, he was my first point of contact. So.
Yeah, my personality, I was schooled by him too, but my personality is so different.
It's funny because I literally hear his voice in my head. And anytime I think about stepping outside the line, I literally hear him say, "How fat and sick do you want to be?" And then I'm like,
Yeah. That's what I should listen to him on, get an audio of Goldhamer in my ear. Be a little stricter. But no, I was doing that for a couple of years. I would have it like once a month. It was kind of that time of the month, and that was my treat to myself. But once I started making the nice creams more, and just, whoa, I should have cut my mangoes ahead of time.
I'm not as strict as him, Katie, though, because I use the California balsamics, and he won't even taste them. So I'm not as strict as Goldhamer.
Not as strict, yeah. Goldhamer is impossible. No, but you've been an inspiration because I hope other people realize this too. Is as you get started, you may not want to be giving up everything. And depending on your personality, it may be wise to not push yourself to try to give up everything and you just fall backwards. And just kind of take, not baby steps, I encourage way more than baby steps because you won't notice the change if you're going just tiny little baby steps, but adding in nutritional yeast and some of these things that, like you said, the vinegar, and there's no reason you need to give it up completely if it's not bothering you. But you were an inspiration because I didn't want to give up my flour. I didn't want to give up my
Well, you know, you're half my age, and you know, I think the longer you struggle, I think maybe the more changes you're willing to make. And I don't know if you saw the live extra show Sunday night, Katie, when it was Dr. Lyle and Dr. Goldhamer, and they were talking about this concept of the ego trap versus the pleasure trap. And I completely agree. If somebody is going to completely fall off because it's too strict, then don't be so strict. But there's people like me, you know, they say in AA, one drink, one drunk. I'm worried that if I try Coconut Bliss, it's not going to be once a month. And so I think that's why people have to know their personality. And I always say, I've said since day one, do the least restrictive program that you can do that will give you the results you want.
Yeah, oh, that's great. Yes. So we added our banana, the mango, the pineapple, and I'm going to add in a little bit of nuts. Now I have a recipe, blueberry cacao, lime ice cream, and it actually calls for a lot of nuts. But that is just to get the consistency, and that's just that recipe. But if you do want a little bit of creaminess and nuts added, just a tablespoon or 2 tablespoons makes a whole bunch, whole difference, you know. So you don't need a lot. All right, we're gonna blend this up. And here. Get the tamper out so we can push this down. Okay. What happened to mine?
Oh, you know, Peggy says it looks like a new kitchen. Did you move?
I did move just a couple weeks ago, and my plug is not working, my outlet. Let's move this over. So I'm in Postville, Washington now. Oh gosh, my outlets aren't working.
Uh-oh, do you think it maybe got triggered and you just have to do a reset?
Yeah, but let me see, I'll be right back.
You guys have any, don't you love it when the guest leaves and I'm stuck here all by myself? I can answer any questions. I need the fear of life put in me. I think I said that wrong. I think it was the fear of death. But yeah, if you do, go to TrueNorth. Let Goldhamer scare you. He's really good at that. The champion juicer that I use is just the standard one, and I'll look for the link and I'll post it.
Okay.
Yeah, Jennifer says can't eat chocolate, chocoholic. Yeah, you know. Goldhamer says if you could have controlled it, you would have controlled it, but you can't, so don't do it. So I get frozen jackfruit at either Whole Foods or Sprouts, and it's the yellow ripe kind. It's like the kind that would be fresh and bright yellow, and it's very delicious. And they have it in a little bag. They also have frozen dragon fruit there, which is very, very good. So let's see.
This is I actually need a smaller tamper for ice cream here. I've got the smaller blender, but a large tamper, so it was good though. We've got this beautiful soft serve.
It looks amazing. And I sometimes freeze it. I know it gets a little harder, but if you defrost it a little bit, it's just as good. And then you don't have to make it all the time.
Yes, you can definitely freeze it. And then it's more like ice cream, actually, when you freeze it. This is like soft serve. So when you freeze it and then just pull it out, a little bit before you want to eat it. It's delicious. So
put a little raspberry sauce on it.
Yes. And it's so rich. You don't need a lot. I made an ice cream with apple and banana, and I'm going to make it into a sundae, caramel apple sundae recipe, but I served it to my nephews the other day and they loved it. And they're used to eating ice cream with all the sugar and stuff in it. So it's going to be so great to be near them now. I can have a little more influence. All right. Our stew is just waiting for us. So I'm going to show you that. I've got a sweet potato here. I'm going to serve it over the sweet potato, but you could really just serve it on the side of your vegetable, on the side of your coleslaw.
Or even rice, maybe.
Yep, exactly. Any starch will work.
Wow, Linda Cluck's sister. Hello. I love Linda Cluck. I haven't seen her in a long time. She's a great songwriter. Welcome, Diane.
Oh. So we've got the red bean stew here. It's moist, so it's like a thick, hearty soup. What's it gonna get?
Like a stoop, right?
Yes. It's a stew. So it's the red bean stew. So I'm gonna cut open my potato. And I'll put this little ladle. We've got our bay leaf in here. I'm gonna take the bay leaf out. Just pour this. And I can serve my, let's put a little of the salad right on the side here. Let's do this.
Thank you guys for noticing my new background. It was designed by Janine Elder, Potato Wisdom. I really like it too. The old one broke. That's the reason.
Oh.
Wow, you live in London, Anna. That's fantastic. We have people watching from India, from London. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, all over the world. That's why it's so much fun to do these online classes. You've been doing them every day, but I've just been doing them once a week on my channel and loving it. It's so much fun. So if you guys are interested in getting more recipes like this, check out my YouTube channel. I have the link below. And on Thursday, this Thursday, because I go live at Thursdays at 5 p.m., we're going to make the 2 recipes that are in the PDF that you'll get sent to you if you opt into my email list. I'll send you all of these recipes we did today plus 2 more. So we're going to make a banana coconut cake, and then we'll make cream-filled mini stuffed peppers.
Yum. You had me at coconut. I love that.
It's going to be a decadent one.
Yeah, maybe you should call the show Cook Along with Katie.
Cook Along, yeah. Well, the Delicious Living, that name, I just love it because I was so attached to making things more and more delicious. As you know, we've talked many times, and I was always trying to make the plant-based, the whole plant foods richer, like more delicious, more flavor, pack in more sweetness, more saltiness, more fat, and more umami. And I realized that there's no amount of deliciousness in the food. There's no amount of flavor from my food that is going to satisfy the longing for a vibrant life that I want, the lifestyle I want, that joy and that the thrill and the excitement, the happiness that I want is not going to come from my food as much as it's going to come from everything else I'm doing and living a healthy lifestyle. The way happiness actually comes from my food is not by the flavor as much as by the nutrition. So that's why we make this food, is to nourish our body so that we can have the happiness and the health to live the life we want. And
that is beautiful. I couldn't agree more. Barb says she's in Hansville, Washington. Do you ever do classes or meetups in the area?
I haven't started that yet, but I do plan to. I would do one next week if I could, but with the COVID and everything, I've been thinking that a lot of people don't want to go out and about into classes, but I think I may get started sooner than later, because really the way we strengthen our immune system and protect ourselves is by eating this food. So we're supporting ourselves more by eating the food than even wearing a mask. That's what I believe. So please get on my email list and I will let you know about any upcoming local classes for sure.
That's great. Well, thank you. Do you want to just show all your dishes one more time and say what they are, just in case somebody tuned in live? Guys, I've been posting the website, theculinarygym.com, throughout this broadcast. If you just click on it, you can get on Katie Mae's email list and be notified when she goes live, which is 5 o'clock on Thursdays. And it sounds like she has a terrific show this Thursday because she's making a coconut cake. That was my favorite when I ate cake.
Oh, yeah, I should definitely have you try it. Give me feedback
Well, maybe I will. If you want to give me the recipe, if it's compliant, I'll make it before and then I'll post it. I'd be happy to.
As long as you can do the flour, it's compliant.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, if it was oats, I could probably do it, or just, sometimes I don't even grind it and it works, like in my carrot cake.
Yeah. That's how I do my cookies now. And I really stopped making cake for the most part. And I make cookies instead because they're so much smaller. You don't worry about overeating.
Yep.
Okay. So here's first up, our red bean stew with the Caribbean salad and sweet chili dressing. And then we have this banana or tropical nice grape with mango and pineapple. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thank you so much, AJ, for having me and for having all of your guests just doing this work. It's really, really a blessing to have you in the world.
Well, I couldn't do it without you guys, and please feel free to come back. I know Kathy Fisher likes to come back about once a month, so you're welcome to get on the schedule again if you'd like to. We love you. We love your food, and this is a perfect time to have made it because it's lunchtime now, and you get to eat it. We don't.
Yes, I will.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Katie Mae. Guys, come back tomorrow if you want beautiful skin, because we have, backed by popular demand at 11 a.m., Dr. Jessica Krant, the plant-based dermatologist from Manhattan. Eat the food that Katie made and you will have beautiful skin. Thanks again, Katie. Great catching up with you and good luck in your new chapter in your life.
Thank you, AJ. Have a great weekend.